Shelby is out competing every one of her competitors. She is going to take your customers and clients before you can even reach them. The reason she makes content is done for the sole purpose of rewiring the prospect's subconscious mind. So what Shelby's doing here is, by the time these leads come to the webinar, she's already done identity shifting so that the webinar is a lot easier to do. Her content does a lot of the heavy lifting. As you can see, the entire creative is exactly the same. There's only one difference in between these two different ads. So as you can see, it's a very simple landing page. You got 1, 2, 3, practically 4 different pages, and the headline is targeting beginners. The reason Shelby does a webinar is because it drastically reduces the sales cycle, which is why it's always good to run it towards cold audiences. They see an element of relatability and believability that they can also make it happen. If Shelby done it, I can do it as well. She's now that mentor and the audience is now in her position. You are thinking you're going to fail. You are thinking sales isn't going to work for you. She's basically voicing it out and normalizing the fear. Hi, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how Shelby Sapp is making $5 million per month with webinars. Today, we're going to be covering everything. So the first thing is her traffic strategy. So all of her meta ads and short form organic content. The second thing is her webinar funnel. So what happens before the webinar, during the 90-minute webinar, and post Webby as well. I went to the entire webinar. I've got all of the slides and I've broken it down. We'll go through that today. The third thing is her sales funnel. So after the webinar, how does she convince a room full of 3,000 to 4,000 prospects to invest in her high-ticket coaching program, which is at least $5,000? And the fourth thing is I'm going to go into how I would make Shelby an extra couple mil per month. Now, if you're an online coach, educational consultant, or you've got some form of educational business and you're making $20,000 to $450,000 per month, then this is for you if you want to really scale your business. Now, who am I? My name is Ramez Raseek. I've been in the info space for the past 3 to 4 years as a marketing partner operator. I've helped multiple coaches in various niches scale their offers to at least a few 6 figures in profit. And fun fact, I started this venture when I was a second-year medical student in the UK. I have now left the doctor's route and I'm focusing on this business full-time, which is very, very cool. So let's get into it. So we're going to be covering 4 buckets. The first one is meta advertising, the second organic content, then the webinar landing page, and the full webinar breakdown and the sales process Shelby does. And as you can see, I've got all of the slides here. To start off with meta advertising, what Shelby does is she runs the meta ads, pairs it with short form organic content, and takes all of these viewers and turns them into leads and gets them to attend a free 90-minute webinar, which is designed for a cold audience. So people who don't know who Shelby is, don't know what remote high-ticket sales is, and if it's the right thing for them in terms of making money online. And then after the webinar, she gets them to book in a one-to-one sales call where she pitches her high-ticket offer. Now, she's got a 400 call capacity. She mentioned this on the webinar. And the closers taking these calls are her actual students in She Sells Academy. So Shelby Sapp is a remote high-ticket sales coach directed towards women, and her students who are making at least $15,000 a month and have been placed on other big offers, they are the people taking these calls, which is very interesting, and we'll get into this as well. And at the time of recording, Shelby was running close to 400 ads, and we'll get into why that's very important. So to start off, before you start running any ads or you start posting organic content, you need to be very clear on who your ICP is. And this is why Shelby is dominating the sales industry and also other BizOp creators as well. So Shelby doesn't just target women or women in their 20s to 30s. She picks on individual identities and she uses different angles to reach these different identities of women in their 20s to 30s and then gives them the CTA to the same webinar. Now, what do I mean by individual identities? Now, a big part of someone's identity tends to be the job they're working, their occupation. And so if you pay close attention to Shelby's ads and content, she calls out on various different types of occupations. So if you're a single mother, if you're a nurse, a student, a barista, if you're working in corporate, if you're a teacher, a social media manager, a real estate agent, she picks on these different people. Now, I've drawn a diagram here just to put this into an analogy. Imagine this whole thing is the ocean, right? The blue ring. Now, this is the niche of women. Now, Shelby and these small red circles you see are small pockets of this audience. Shelby picks on individual pockets of this entire audience and then she works her way up. And before you know it, she's targeted the entire niche of women. So what are these circles? So this could be someone who's a student, a nurse, a doctor, someone who was working in a bank, so on and so forth. And by doing this, Shelby is able, when running ads, which is why she's running hundreds of ads, she's able to target new cold audiences every single time. She's expanding her reach with ads, and that's exactly what you want to do, okay? So not only is that important for that reason, but also because Shelby is out-competing every one of her competitors inside her market and outside of her market. So, for example, inside the market would be other sales coaches teaching females, door-to-door sales coaches, and remote high-ticket sales coaches. Now, if Shelby has a stronger ad strategy compared to you, where she's able to reach these cold audiences before you can reach them, she is going to take your customers and clients before you can even reach them. And she's spending high 5-6 figures per month just on ads to acquire these leads. You will be out-competed, right? That's why this is important. Now, into market. So if you're a creator selling a BizOp offer, so a business opportunity, how to make money online type of thing. So if you're a trading coach, Amazon FBA coach, e-commerce coach, whatever niche you're in, you're also competing with Shelby because she's targeting the niche of women, as I just showed you in that diagram. And if she can reach those very unaware leads first and convince them that if you want to make money online, then you have to do remote high ticket sales because she anchors them together, you can't even get to that lead and say that you should do trading or Amazon FBA and e-commerce because Shelby gets them to believe that high ticket sales is the thing that they should do. And she actually goes against the types of businesses you run or the way you make your money online, which basically makes her sales more superior. And so you are also competing with Shelby, which is very important. So now if you go into the ads, as we can see, she's got nearly 400. So let's just say these two ads are part of one set. So as you can see, the entire creative is exactly the same. There's only one difference in between these two different ads. Now, as you can see, they're both, 90 seconds long. The caption's exactly the same. The only difference is the hook. So for the first one, the hook is the best piece of money advice that I wish someone gave me at 22 is this. The second hook is if you're in your 20s and you're kind of confused about what to do with money, just do this one thing. Now, and as you can see, the caption is the same. So if you want to buy your first home, start investing and stop stressing about money 24/7. The reason Shelby does this is because if someone scrolls past your video or ad when they watch your hook, then it's irrelevant what you've said in the rest of the creative and you're wasting your money. You're putting it down the drain. You need to make sure that the hook is actually building enough curiosity to get them to stop scrolling and to carry on watching so that they take the CTA, which is to the webinar, as you can see right here. Now, what Shelby does by testing these two different hooks, her team goes into Ads Manager. They look at which ad had the higher viewer retention rate and had the more optimal metrics as well. And they then create winning angles and puts that into a campaign of that specific hook, and they keep testing and testing and testing. And that's why the coaches who are doing millions a month like Shelby, whether it's Shelby or other coaches in other markets, it's because they constantly create winning angles of ads, keep reaching new cold audiences, and they have a very strong funnel, which allows them to convert them on some form of offer. So she's changing the hook. Now, in this set, exact same thing. The hook is different, but the caption is the same. And the creative is the same again, 90 seconds long or closer to 120 seconds. So, but in this case, the caption is different. So if you want Pilates in the morning, slow afternoons, and a career that actually respects your time, this is your sign to get into high ticket sales. So as you can see, in between different sets, the captions are different between the sets, the creative is different, and everything is different. But inside a set, only the hook is different. So let's just break down exactly how Shelby is running her hooks or what she's doing. So she's here, in this example right here, she's using a problem-aware hook. So you guys should know Eugene Schwartz, who's one of the pioneers of understanding market awareness levels, basically. He has 5 stages of market awareness. So this hook right here is speaking to women in the 20s to 30s who are in a very specific stage of the funnel or customer journey. So at this point, they are problem-aware. They know that they are confused about what to do with money, but they don't know what to do next. So the next thing is to make them solution aware. So this ad takes them to the next stage. If you can take them from the first stage to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth, where they are mostly aware, they will then invest in your program. And that's what Shelby's doing. So another important thing here is that if you don't get specific enough in your ads, you are going to start creating lots of choke points. And Jeremy Haynes mentions this. So essentially, what I mean by this is Meta has changed, right? Whenever you're running creatives, 80% of the targeting happens in the actual creative. So you need to be very, very specific in the ICP you're calling out in your ads and Meta will do the rest of the work. And so if you don't get specific enough, you're going to create choke points in your ad metrics. So you can imagine that to go from one metric to the next metric, so from those who are applying to those showing up on a call, who then actually close on a call, all of those different metrics. If one of them it's basically under-optimized, right, it's going to affect all of the metrics that follow it. So that's why you need to be very specific with your ad, so you get the right leads into your funnel, into your pipeline, and your stats will be doing much better. On this side, the types of hooks she's using is a contrarian type of belief. So she's breaking down the whole notion that in order to be successful, you need to sacrifice everything. So that's why she says, I will never tell you to skip your friend's wedding for the sake of success. This hook right here, again, the same type of hook. She's breaking down that you need to work 18 hours a day to be successful, and that's this type of set. So that's why Shelby is able to, reach bigger and bigger audiences. Now, you might be asking, if you read the caption here, you will never see Shelby really talking to you a lot about how to make $10,000 a month as a remote closer. She says it here in the captions, but if you watch the hooks, if you watch the actual creatives, she doesn't really talk about money. She talks about the level beyond money. So the reason Shelby's team wrote her captions like this is because if Shelby, and you can do this for your own audience, if you ask 1,000 of your students why they got into your program, they might say, I want to make more money. But then if you ask them a further question, something like that's quite superficial, what would that extra money do for you and for your life? They would say something like this: I want to buy a house, I want to quit my corporate job, I want to be around my kids more, I want to stop stressing about bills. And these are the things that Shelby mentions in her captions, in her ad creatives, in her content as a whole. Okay, so she's being very, very specific beyond money, and that's why her ads are always performing really well. So this is an example table that I've given on how you can create lots of different variations in your ads. So 4 different things. So their identity, desires, problems, and hook. So you can play off different identities which these people have. The occupations they have, their desire, financial freedom, time freedom, flexibility with how much they work, growing and being independent, their pain, so what's causing them to even consider coming to your webinar or coming into your funnel or listening to what you have to offer. It's because they have a low income, they're highly stressed, lack freedom, they're complete beginners, so they lack self-belief that they can make this work. And then the hook. So how would you hook them onto watching your creative so that they hit the CTA and come to your funnel? Now, again, Shelby had 3,000 to 4,000 people in that live webinar when I was there. And so she probably had maybe 5,000 to 6,000, 7,000 people who actually opted in to come to the webinar. And so by creating lots of messaging variations with more ad spend, you can have more people attend to the webinar. And basically, if you have the right funnel, you can become very profitable on those ads. Shelby is also running a few case study ads. This is directed to the mid-funnel, so people who know of Shelby but just need that little push over the fence to be convinced that she can actually help me make money from high-ticket sales, remote high-ticket sales. So as you can see, she's got different hooks. They all involve her students. So this one is from $2,000 a month to $25,000 a month as a remote closer. This one is, I just paid a student $60,000 for 30 days of work. And this one is a $22,000 per month closer, explains her day-to-day life. Now, the reason Shelby's doing this, if we take this first testimonial, she's targeting people who are women in the 20s to 30s, who are making $2,000 a month, and then shows them that you can get to $25K a month as a remote closer. So then they watch this 1-minute video and they get hooked onto it, and then they take the CTA. This one is very curiosity-based, like paying a student $60,000 for 30 days of work is very interesting. I want to be Shelby's student. That's what they're thinking. And this one, what she's doing here is she's basically showing the prospects or the people watching this ad that you don't need to work 20 hours a day. You can work 2 to 3, 4 hours a day and make more than $20,000 per month. And that's why she's doing this, okay? She's showing, not just telling. In the captions, you can see in this first one, she doesn't just mention that this person, Mona, her student, was a teacher. She mentions that she was an English teacher and an online English teacher. So being very, very specific with the job this person had, because what Meta does is then put this ad in front of other English teachers and teachers, and the more specific you're able to get with an ad, when a prospect sees that ad, an English teacher, no matter what she's doing, she's going to be hooked because she feels Shelby is talking directly to her. And as you can see, the CTA is to the masterclass, or basically to follow her on Instagram. So now that we've discussed Shelby's ad strategy, let's go into her organic content. To start off with the 4 content pillars. So she embeds this across all of her short form platforms, Instagram and TikTok. So the first bucket is lifestyle. Second is identity shifting. The third is educating them on the vehicle. And the fourth one is her tribe, or she sells community. So let's go to the first one. So the reason she makes content around lifestyle is because she is making the dream life of the audience feel tangible. So in its first role, she shows that she's getting her mum a Porsche with her sales money. That's quite interesting. That hooks you. Or her with all of her friends who attended her engagement party. She's engaged to Alex Eubank, who's also very big in the fitness space as well online. And so this just shows that the life she's living is a very happy life, it's a fun life, and a very successful life, and financially is really good. So by showing this, she's basically showing the audience that when you make this online money, you can have this lifestyle. It makes it very tangible and very real. The second bucket is identity shifting. This here is done for the sole purpose of rewiring the prospect's subconscious mind. So she makes videos like this. In this one, she said basically people pleasing won't help you. This reel right here is her talking to a student and how she wants conversations with her girls to sound like. In the video, they said something like, I don't want to meal prep because I can use that time to close some more deals and make some more money. And in this one, as you can see, the on-screen hook is, I studied 67 billionaires and found one thing in common. And she's preaching empowerment, independence, so on and so forth. Now, the reason this is super strong is because she's getting the audience to become conscious of their current identity or current mental state. So someone watching this video could be, in a position where they are a burnt out teacher. Shelby basically shifts their identity to get them to believe that they are able to be a confident, independent woman who controls her own income and time. And so I'll put a little box here as well. You guys might be interested. I'm very interested in like esoteric, metaphysical stuff like this. But basically, the reason it's so strong is because your physical reality, the things your 5 senses can pick up, is a consequence of your thoughts and beliefs, because whatever you think materializes into reality. So if I tell you to go on the street and to spot a red car, you're naturally going to find a lot more red cars than you usually would, because what? You're focusing on it mentally. Whatever happens here physically happens here first. And so for someone to, like an online English teacher who's making $2,000 a month, to go to the webinar, to believe that they can make remote high-ticket sales coaching, closing work for them, to become very successful and make a lot of money from it, they need to shift their identity. With the current state they're in, they would never make it happen. They will always give objection after objection after objection. So what Shelby's doing, she's releasing this type of content to show them that if you want to live this lifestyle, and she has plenty more videos, or make a lot more money like all of my other students, you need to have these traits, which gets them to shift their identity. So what Shelby's doing here is, by the time these leads come to the webinar, she's already done identity shifting so that the webinar is a lot easier to do, which is why her webinars are very successful. She doesn't leave all of the work for the webinar. Her content does a lot of the heavy lifting. Does that make sense? So the third bucket is vehicle education. It's so interesting because Shelby simplifies how remote high-ticket sales coaching works in a very, very simple manner. So as you can see here, you can look at the, what is high-ticket sales, remote closing, sales 101. In this video, it's basically a clip of her, as you can see, doing door-to-door sales back in the days where she's very tired, very exhausted, very sweaty, and then it cuts to her now being a remote closer, and she's very well put together. She's not sweating. She looks very calm and making a lot of money. So basically, thrashing door-to-door sales and saying remote high-ticket sales is the way, or how to sell to rich people. And she basically talks about how, like, if you sell a high ticket program, which is anywhere from $3,000 or more, you get 10 to 15% commission. So you'll be making $300, close to free in a day, $900, and keeps it very simple. The reason this is interesting is because a lot of coaches, they over explain how their business model works, or whatever coaching niche you're in, how your model works, and that throws off the prospect. She keeps it very, very simple. And even in the webinar, there was someone in the comments at the end in the Q&A who asked her about, like, how does PIF versus split payments work? Shelby straight out said that we're going to be covering that inside the academy. We don't need to go that far on, basically. So don't overcomplicate what the vehicle is. And then finally, the She Sells community. She makes success feel like very normal and attainable, and she just basically throws in the feeling of FOMO. If you're a female and you're not part of this community, you are missing out, right? So, for example, in this video here, she says, choose your clothes. All of these people are her students, and we're going to break down what actually happened in her Instagram stories as well. Basically, female from all sorts of backgrounds making a shit ton of money with closing. And then here in this video is basically her with an iPhone recording her student closing a call, and then basically they're in a mansion, as you can see. And again, a very similar type of video where friends doing high ticket sales with very different incomes, basically. So that's Shelby's 4 content pillars. She orchestrates these 4 pillars together across her ads, across her content on short form, and that's why her webinars are really successful. So moving on to her Instagram stories and highlights. So she's got daily stories going on, and as you can see, the first one we're going to break down is pretty long, but it's the same concept. So what she does here is she says, choose your closer. This video got 2.6 million views. Who are you trying to be like, right? This right here, when I first clicked on this slide, I didn't know what was coming. I thought this was a very entertaining type of hook. It was a scroll stopping hook for sure. And now you're like curious, like what's this about? And then the second slide, it's basically Shelby. She trained these girls from the ground up, and you're next. And she's positioning herself as the credible source that has trained all of the students on the right, okay? And then she basically goes in student by student and discusses basically how much they're making with remote closing. Shelby follows this format. So the name, as you can see, Lucy, their X job, the result they're getting with closing, the mechanism, and the CTA to the Webby. So this is Lucy, an ex-teacher making $15,000 a month as a remote closer, and then a link to the live masterclass. Then it's Lindsay, Jayla, Carolina, Jenna, Sabrina, so on and so forth. And as you can see, the example she uses of the jobs they're doing is always different. This one's an ex-teacher, an ex-social media manager, used to do door-to-door sales. She's a single mother, used to work at a bank right here, ex-bartender, and she's pulling on different audiences. She's basically giving that subconscious message to the females that doesn't matter what job you're doing, you can make this work. And if you pay attention to the links as well, the link is not just saying join masterclass, join masterclass, join masterclass. She's writing different copy each and every single time. So this one here is handling the objection of, look, you don't need to be skilled at sales or have any experience. Like they all started here, they were complete beginners. Throws in the day, like gets them to anchor that this masterclass is happening on Tuesday. I also want to be a closing mother. I'm in customer service, I'm down, blah, blah, blah. And so case study after case study after case study after case study, and you're 100% going to go to the very end, because if the hook gets you and you click the second slide, you're going to the very end of all of this. And by the time you reach the end of this, you just believe that high ticket sales works. And so you take the link and you click it and you sign up. That's exactly what Shelby is doing right here. So the next type of hook, again, as you can see, next type of story, as you can see, the hook right here, very conversational. Who was at my house yesterday? And you can see there's a mansion, there's all of these females, like, wait, what's going on here? That's what you're thinking through your mind. And then you click it, and then again, she funnels you, she's speaking to your subconscious. And then, as you can see, the image right here is the front of her mansion being filmed, and then the image here is them being in the back. You can see the pool, and all of them having a really good time. And the words you see on the screen are basically all sorts of different jobs that they had, and how none of them quit their jobs in the beginning. They all juggled taking part-time closing calls around a full-time job at first. Now, what she's doing here is she's handling one objection at a time. As you can see, this is the first objection handled here, and the second will be handled here. What a lot of coaches do, in one reel or one Instagram story, they try to handle like 10, 20 different objections. That's just not possible. You need to keep it very simple. She's doing it one by one. In this slide, she's handling the objection that you need to quit your full-time job in order to pursue high-ticket sales. She's saying, no, you can still do what you're doing, do closing part-time, and then once you're comfortable enough, then you can leave your job. Then this slide, she goes into, zero reason why you can't do the same, and how the objection she's handling here is that you only need a few hours every single week, and you can make it happen. So if they have the objection that I'm not confident, I don't believe I can make sales work, she's breaking that down. And if you pay attention, every image is speaking to the prospect subconsciously. So do this with your slides as well. So this one is in the back garden, just a very bird's eye view. This one right here is a laptop by the pool and shows them that I'm working for my laptop. And then in the final, penultimate slide, it shows her and her student with a laptop by the pool closing deals, which is interesting because as a female, you're watching this and thinking they're in a mansion, they're working by the pool. This is the exact type of lifestyle which I want. And then basically funnels them into the webinar and say, sorry, it's full. And again, speaks to the subconscious by being in a pink Porsche. So everything is strategically built, okay? And that's how Shelby does the stories. Grabs your attention, gives you a shit ton of case studies, handles your objections one by one, and then funnels you into the webinar. Now we're going to go into Shelby's Instagram highlights. So you can see that she's got 4 packed with students wins, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm not going to go for every single one, but I just want you to, I'm just going to zoom out for a second and show you that she's showing different types of testimonials. So this person here landed their first offer. And in this one, she's getting students on Trustpilot to do the selling themselves. So the student is saying, if you're on the fence with joining, you will not regret it. Okay? And then this one, she shows proof of demand from business owners who need her students as closers. So, she gets plenty of coaches reaching out to her and asking her, can I have your students to close some of these high-ticket deals for me? And again, this breaks down the whole idea that, I don't charge for placement or percentage, and she just wants to connect her girls with these top offers. Again, just stacking authority. This one right here, she's showing, not telling. So them typical question polls that you put on stories, right? Someone asks, how fast can I go from starting at 0 to making commissions regularly? Shelby doesn't even bother answering the question. She just screenshots student results that answers the question for you. Again, she's showing, not telling. And in this one right here, she's showing entry-level proof. So it's very difficult for someone who's making $2,000 or $3,000 a month with a current job to then see a case study of a student making $70,000 a month. They just cannot fathom that. They're not going to believe it. So what Shelby does is she shows you entry-level proof. Fiona just closed 2 deals in 2 hours and made $840 in commission. She has students making 60 grand a month or has made 60 grand a month. But in this slide, she's talking about a student who's made $800. There's a very specific reason. She's showing different tiers of results. This is what you need to do as well. And consistency, daily stories always wins. Now we're going to go into Shelby's free pin post. So obviously you've seen the stories, you've seen the highlights, and now you click the free pin post. I wanted to do it from her post on TikTok just to add some diversity to this video. So this first one, pin post number 1, is a CEO video. It's a 10 to 15 second video, shows, as you can see the caption, every parent wants their daughter to marry a CEO, and then it basically snaps to her with lots of photos and videos going back to back, and how the caption then says, so I decided to become the CEO. As you can see, it's got a shit ton of views, and this right here is not just meant to be motivational content. It's meant to shift that identity that you don't need to marry a CEO. You can become a CEO yourself. Then the second pin post, this is now shot with her iPhone, and she starts speaking to the audience. The audience can hear her now. And this one's also got lots of views. And she basically talks about how if you want a Porsche Pilates lifestyle, as you can see, get yourself the Porsche Pilates wife lifestyle, then you need to do this. So at this point, she's now basically, she knows that the prospects have watched this video first for the first time. They see that she's very successful because the photos and videos in the back of this, in the B-roll, it shows her being very successful. They're now thinking, wait, what does she do? And then Shelby basically says, look, not only am I successful, but I have a Porsche, I do Pilates, I have slow afternoons, very chill lifestyle. And she's basically getting them to believe that, okay, Shelby has the exact life that I want. What is she actually doing? So she's future pacing the prospects. The third pin post is when she now introduces her vehicle of high ticket sales. And obviously, as you can see, this has got a lot lower views compared to these two videos because it's built to be for the mid-bottom funnel, not top funnel. And she introduces sales. So sales is the highest paid profession in the world, and her whole thing is remote high-ticket sales. And yeah, so now at this point, the prospects have seen that she's very successful. She lives the lifestyle I want, very chill lifestyle, and she does sales. I need to get into sales. So Shelby is engineering a belief progression. So at this point, now when the people watch her content, again, they go to the 4 different buckets. They go, and eventually sign up to the webinar, basically. So finally, is Shelby's YouTube. As you can see, Shelby has only uploaded about 10 videos over the past year. She's getting only 19K views every 7 days, and that's very, very weak. And she needs to optimize this because it will help her make an additional couple $100,000 per month if she leverages this itself. And I want to compare to some other people. So Samuel Newha, who teaches e-commerce, he gets 125K every 7 days. Tony Robbins, 720K every 7 days. Brez scales 2 million views every 7 days practically. And the reason I'm showing you this is because YouTube is one of the strongest ways in nurturing a prospect, giving as much value as you can and funneling them into your funnels. So imagine if Shelby's getting 3,000 to 4,000 people signing up to her live webinars who come from short form. Imagine if she implemented just one YouTube video every single week. Basically, whatever she does on short form, she does it through long form, right? Like a 10, 20-minute video. Just imagine how many thousand more people she will get on every single webinar, which she repeats every single week, and how nurtured and qualified they will be. Shelby can easily clear an extra couple $100,000 to even $1 million per month just by leveraging YouTube. I don't know why this is very underutilized. And so if Shelby was to make more long-form videos, I've watched a few of these videos. Personally, I don't really like them. It's not really connected to what she's doing through short form. Doesn't really like hook her audience as well as she does through short form. So a few things I would do for Shelby is use these videos as pre-call long form assets. So after the webinar, when a prospect books in a sales calls, you want to hit them with a few long form videos for them to watch, or even just one that's very specific for them. Content that you haven't really shared in the webinar, on your Instagram, on your TikTok, but only something that you can do through YouTube. So that's what I would leverage these assets for. I watched these videos and none of them really seem beneficial as a long form asset, which is why I said, she should create something specifically for this. The second thing is email copywriting. Now, one of the best ways in getting your social media to work together in order to basically get your offers to print a lot more is orchestrating it and systemizing it a lot better. So for example, you can redirect people from your email list to go and watch this long form video. You can write about your long form video in an email format and keep it very short and concise. You can repurpose content across different, like in an omni-channel way. And email copywriting is one of the strongest ways in converting clients. I once done a D2C funnel for one of my clients. He's a free diving coach. And we went from zero to $51,000 in profit in only 7 days of launching a brand new offer, like a $600 offer mid-ticket, through email. Email is super powerful. And we're going to go through how she sends emails as well throughout this entire funnel when she's running her webinar, which is very underutilized as well. But for email, it's really good. And the third and fourth things is showing deeper dives of her students' lives. So showing her recording her student actually closing a deal or handling an objection, showing the behind the scenes of her actually coaching her students or what happens in the actual program. These are the types of content which her audience would like to see. So this is something I would leverage. So all in all, she runs meta ads and organic content to basically funnel as many people as she can into signing up for the webinar. So now let's go into the actual webinar, okay? The actual landing page to get them to sign up. So as you can see, it's a very simple landing page. You got 1, 2, 3, practically 4 different pages. And the headline is targeting beginners. So how to step into high ticket sales with Shelby Sapp, gives the date and gets them to click this button and save their spot. She does a new webinar every 7 days, and so the countdown at the top right here, it resets. The second page, she goes into, you're going to learn all of this. So the first one, she's basically saying, if you want control over your life, then you need to do high ticket sales. The second is, how does high ticket sales actually work? We're going to go through the 5 steps. The third one is removing the barrier to entry. So even if you're new to sales, you have no experience, this will be very easy for you if you follow it correctly. And finally, is urgency. Why now is the best time to find and secure the best opportunities in sales. And then she goes into, this is for you if, by qualifying prospects, if you're sick and tired of your 9-to-5 job, if you want to earn a living without a degree or corporate job, if you want to learn a new skill and be part of a community, and you want to work from anywhere on your own terms and not be tied to a desk. Now, it's very interesting because now that we've gone through her entire content and how she continuously picks on new cold audiences and creates lots of different variations and how she speaks to the subconscious mind to basically believe that her lifestyle is what they want and that high ticket sales is the way to go. She keeps this very, very simple because her advertising and content done all of the targeting already. She went as specific as she can. And the whole thing with a webinar funnel like this landing page, you want to keep it as simple as possible. If you have too many buttons, too many slides, too many words, people are going to lose interest, too much friction, you're going to have a lower click-through rate or lower opt-in rate. So she's keeping it very simple. She's not mentioning a nurse or student or corporate job right here. She's just saying if you're sick and tired of your 9-to-5 job, this is for you. Again, keeping it very simple. This one right here is self-qualifying the prospect, basically. So when the prospect reads through this and sees that they're not doing any of this, like they're not looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, they do want to put in the work, they do want to be part of a community, they're self-qualifying themselves, right? Again, subconscious. Then she goes into her story and how she came up with She Sells Academy and just a bit more about herself. So what she does here is that she humanizes her brand. People do not buy the actual offer, they buy into the coach first, the founder. They want to see if your story resonates with them. So this just builds more trust and connection with the audience. And finally, limited spots available. Join this free live masterclass. Only one CTA encourages them to take immediate action now and gets them to sign up. So she funnels all of those ads, the CTAs, all of the traffic through ManyChat, whatever automations she uses to get them to this landing page to opt in. And then as soon as you click the button, you see this right here, this form pop up. So you write your first name, your email, and your phone number. Now, the reason she does this is because as soon as you submit this, the back-end operations and systems kick in. So you get automated emails, basically confirming that you've reserved your spot. And basically she sends you through a flow of email sequences, warming you up before the webinar. And then also a triager calls you or DMs you just to make sure that you're attending the webinar, okay? That's what she does. As soon as you click to sign up, she then redirects you to the second page. So this is shot with her iPhone. It's a 90-second video. And essentially, the reason you want to have this page after someone signs up to your webinar is to basically maximize show-up rates. So what she says in this video is basically, look, in this 90-minute webinar, or masterclass, we're going to go through the ins and outs of high ticket sales and how it exactly works. And she gives them a constant reminder. She says this at the start, middle, and in the end to add this event, the masterclass, to your calendar. And she writes it here as well. So make sure to check your inbox and you don't want to miss this. It's a very laid back video, speaking her prospect's language to maximize show-up rate. So at this point, Shelby has collected the leads' details, has their email, and now is waiting for them to come to the webinar. And so in order to make sure they come, she also sends a series of emails which we're going to go through. So as you can see, Shelby sends all of these emails. So her masterclass was done on the 9th of June, so as you can see, and I've shown you for at least a week of the emails she's sending. And we're going to go through these one by one. I love emails myself. They are highly convertible if you do it correctly, and Shelby is doing a lot of it incorrectly, so we're going to go through it. So as soon as you opt in, you get this email. So the subject line is confirm your support, action required, basically telling them, look, this is the date, the time, and where to basically click the link to come to the webinar, add it to your calendar, and basically says it only takes 10 seconds to do this. The goals who literally do this are 3 times more likely to actually show up live. And again, this is just to get them to come up. And then 24 hours before the live masterclass, Shelby sends this email. The subject line is, it's today, hot girl. And again, very simple, the date, time, and the link of the webinar and what they're going to get into. See you in 12 hours, and just basically tell your roommates, your partner and your pets that, you're booked for tonight. So basically telling them that this is serious, make sure you attend. And then 3 minutes later, after she sends this email, so still 24 hours later, she sends this email. Subject line is, no time for this masterclass, that's why you need it. And essentially, she basically goes into why they're so busy and how, you can still come if you can tune in from your phone, your car, or from your kitchen counter. Just make sure you come, basically. And then 7 hours before the webinar, she then says this email. So the subject line is, you didn't forget about tonight, right? And again, just a very simple link to get them to come up. And it's just variations of the previous email she sent, basically telling them, look, we're going to break this down. This is the date, time, and link. Make sure you join. And then 1 hour before the live masterclass, she sends this email. Subject line, this is your 1 hour warning, bestie. And again, basically tells them, look, close all of your other tabs, grab your favorite notebook, and be ready when the door opens. So it's important because in the subject line, because with email, you want to make sure that Had to unpause the video real quick. But basically, the reason she says one as a word and not a number is because you want to make sure you're not hurting your email deliverability. When these service providers, they see you sending emails, like thousands of emails on this list, if they see any numbers in the subject line, they're going to hurt your deliverability. The health of your domain will be ruined. And so you will start landing in the spam folder. And so that's why you want to make sure you're basically not landing in spam. So when the webinar then finishes, 11 hours after, she sends this email. So subject line, she made $0 on Tuesday and $0 on Wednesday, and then basically goes in how, this is how your first week as a remote closer can look. She goes through how Shailene, week one closing basically totaled out at $21,000 cash collected and how much money she made. And basically most jobs don't even let you log into the system in week one, but on this side, you're already making thousands of dollars. So she goes through a case study. And then 2 days later, subject line, you're being conditioned to stress 40 times a day, basically saying how your nervous system feels very stressed when you hear that Slack ping, the team's notification. So she's speaking to how women feel when they're overstimulated by the jobs they run, and basically says, how about now the notifications you get on your phone, which alerts your attention, is a Stripe notification that you're getting paid. So she flips their understanding and basically saying, look, you don't need to be stressed from your phone. You can actually make your phone, and make money from your phone. Obviously, Stripe notifications, again, breaking that down. 4 days later, subject line, stop doing mental math at the register. I'm basically saying how you'd look at the menu in the cafe, you see how expensive a coffee is, and you change your order, and that you don't have to do that, basically. And then 6 days later, this is the final email of the sequence. Subject line is, did you actually choose this life? And basically, as you can see, this email, and staying was just easier than dealing with the disruption of leaving. The current situation gets a lot harder to stay comfortable in. I'm basically saying, look, you need to leave your job, right? And then a week later, she basically puts them into a new sequence where she invites them to the new webinar, which is happening, like I said, every 7 days. Now, there's a lot of things to change with these emails. As you can see, after the workshop, in these 2 emails after, she redirects them to a short VSL, where she, for example, in this one, she talks about how, Jasmine, which is one of the coaches online, she lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in deals because she didn't have closers to take her sales calls for her. Because if she's booking hundreds of calls, there's no one to take the calls for her. So Shelby also talks about case studies in here, and below this video was a button so that they can book in a call, basically. Here, same thing, but this one is just an application type thing. Now, there's many things I would change in these emails. So first one is, after the workshop, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be direct. This is a terrible subject line because it doesn't hook the people's attention. Like I said, we've run a D2C funnel. We've made 51K from $0 in profit in 7 days of launching a new mid-ticket offer just by running emails, right? We had no sales calls, just emails. And I can tell you this is a really bad email. Because think about it, if someone's just gone through your 90-minute workshop, they've gone through all of the Q&A, they still haven't booked a call in, and they've absorbed all of your content, this type of subject line will not hook their attention. And a skill I like to give coaches, I do everything from like full stack, everything, right? But one thing when I consult, one thing I tell them is, usually the message you're trying to get across towards the middle end of your video or email, that should usually be at the start of the email. So here she talks about, this is because I put my name as Sarah on the form. That's the first thing that came to my head. So S, I want to show you something different today. Your first week as a remote closer. It's not a bad start, but if I go to the bottom, I can guarantee there will be something more interesting. So yeah, right here, 2K deposit and a $5,000 paid in full, her first PIF ever. That could be right at the top. And then the next line would be, this is what Shailene achieved in her first week as a remote closer from the academy. That's a much stronger hook to the start of the email compared to what Shelby done here, okay? And the subject line, it needs to change. Like, if I'm reading this as a prospect, she made $0 on Tuesday and Wednesday, she's probably made $0 on Thursday. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a good subject line. So make it shorter and make the subject line better. Okay, so that's one. And this one, again, this type of email, if you have a read through this email, you can see that it's just, there's too much information and there's no real knowledge or value in here. So she's basically had a very long email copy going into unnecessary additional information, if someone reads this, I guarantee you they're not going to read your next email. So again, go towards the middle bottom part of this, and let's just see something we can put towards the top. Let's just see. So something like, imagine your phone notification comes off and it's a Stripe notification of $600 on your first day as a closer. That's a much stronger hook compared to all of this. You don't need to go into your shoulders tense, your stomach drops, your whole vibe just shifts when you get a notification at 5 p.m. on a Friday. I get she's trying, that's what her prospects feel, but it's not strong enough. Pick on something stronger. And this subject line of you're being conditioned to stress 40 times a day is not strong at all. It's just irrelevant. I'm not going to bother opening that email at all. So again, change the subject line, change the hook, and get to the point quicker. Okay? And then there's a few more things that I would do. So, and I've written it, where is it? Towards the bottom, yeah, right here. So the first thing I'll change to improve Shelby's emails is massively increase her sending frequency. So after the workshop, she sent 4 emails. Let me just confirm. Yeah, 4 emails instead of 12, okay? And I would send 12 emails. So on the first day after the webinar, I'll send 3 emails. Second day after, 3 emails. Third day after, 2 emails. Fourth day after, 2 emails. And then on the 5th and 6th day, 1 email. On the 7th day, I would invite them to the new masterclass. Now, you might be thinking, well, Ramez, sending more emails every single day, that's going to get lower open rates. People are going to hate seeing it in their email box. And what if the deliverability is really bad? Well, those are valid, questions. Just for some context, when we made that 50K in 7 days from email alone, from sending a mid-ticket offer, on the final day of the launch, I had sent 6 emails to the audience. And of course, the open rate will drop off as the week goes on towards the launch. But you have to understand that the people reading these emails, they are high intent. And we had people buying to the very end of the launch off the emails, because we can track it, that we sent on the final days. You know what I mean? And also, the first day after the webinar, this prospect is very warm. They've just absorbed so much of your material. They've spent 90 minutes with you on a webinar. If there's any time for them to absorb even more information from you, or a chance for you to convince them or to get them to believe that they can make high-ticket sales work for them, it's the first day after the webinar. So send more emails. Shelby only sent 11 hours. She sent 1 email. That's just not good enough, and the email wasn't strong enough at all. So sending frequency, increase it. Open rates will drop, but just give the opportunity for them to unsubscribe from the list so that the domain provider doesn't hurt your inbox. And make sure you're giving value. So the copywriting, I don't know who Shelby's email copywriter is, but it's quite weak. I'll change a lot of it. The second thing is copywriting angles, okay? So one that works really well for my clients is having an email where you go case study after case study after case study, example after example after example. Just go straight into it. And give examples of students who have got different results, different types of results, different tier of results from different backgrounds. So for Shelby, that Instagram slide she had, well, it was somewhere up there, like students working different jobs, making different amounts of at closing, she can use them in this email. Just their name, X job, and result. Just like throw case study after case study after case study, okay? The next one is, again, get straight to the point with some analogies, don't over-explain. So 2DL just means the 2 days later email, basically. This one, we've already talked about how you can get a lot more straight to the point. A lot of it is just waffle. You don't need to do that. The third one is go through all of their facts, objections, so frequently asked questions in one email. So say these are commonly frequently asked questions. Let me know what you think. Bang, bang, bang. Go through like 3 to 5. And you don't want to make the email overly long, and make sure it's optimized for mobile, because they're going to be opening it on mobile. But go through the common objections and go a layer deeper. Because again, they've spent 90 minutes with you on a webinar. If they still haven't been convinced, then you need to go a layer deeper. And the final thing I would do for email is touch on deeper pain points rather than the original coffee example. So staring at a menu, seeing how expensive a coffee is, and deciding to change your email, that's a good angle to use. But if that's the only angle you used in that whole email, because she's not sending enough emails, and so that becomes the main email she's written, it's not a strong pain point. A stronger pain point would be something like, you cannot pick your kids up from school at 4 p.m. because you're kept behind for work. Something along to, like, pick on like deeper pain points and send more emails. That's what I would do, okay? And And yeah, so in terms of the CTA, as you can see after the workshop, she basically redirects them to a shorter VSL. So in this one, I would add an urgent time frame to a sub-headline. So for example, in this one, bear in mind this is a day after the workshop, the headline and sub-headline is a bit too basic. So women are breaking into high-ticket remote sales with no experience. And then this one is, here's the simple method helping them earn from anywhere fast. That's not going to convince them to go over the fence, right? And to come and get your program. So say something like in the sub-headline, here's the she sells method women are using to land their first offer within 2 days, because she actually had a student who landed an offer within the first 48 hours. This is a lot more specific. It shows that she's got something specific other coaches don't. Very specific with the actual offer and within 2 days, urgency. Rather than what she wrote here, with here's the simple method helping them earn from anywhere fast. This is a lot stronger, more likely to get them to basically, watch the video. And also at the start of the VSL, what I would do is tweak it a bit, because she's following the same format she's done in other VSLs and in her long form videos. Instead, at the start of the VSL for like a minute or 2 minutes, I will spam case studies. So this is Shailene, who joined this time. She was an ex whatever, like ex job, now making this much. Then move on to the next one. This is Lindsay, ex job. Just show them for like 1 to 2 minutes at the start of the VSL. That can sometimes be enough to get the prospect to book in a call. It's as simple as that. And so that's Shelby's email. So at this point, we've discussed, basically, as Shelby runs ads, runs the content, getting them onto the webinar landing page, getting them to opt in, and then the email she sends them, pre and post Webby, and then basically what she can focus on the emails to optimize her results a lot better. So now we're going to go into the full webinar breakdown. We're going to go through all of the webinar slides, the type form, and then basically what happens after that. So to start off, right, the reason Shelby does a webinar is because it drastically reduces the sales cycle, which is why it's always good to run it towards cold audiences. Without a webinar, an average sales cycle, let's say, could be a month to convert a cold lead into a client or customer. With a webinar, you can do it in 90 minutes, which is 0.21% of the time of 1 month. You can do it a lot quicker, like 100 times quicker, which is why webinars are important. So let's go into the webinar now, which is super interesting. So again, it was like 2 a.m. for me because I'm from London, right? And so I had to stay behind. I've done this for you guys, okay? So the first slide is a welcome slide. So here she basically removes the guards by saying, I have nothing to sell you like I did last year. And she says how last year, if you after the webinar or masterclass, I'll send a payment link in the chat. If you could afford it, you would get started. And unfortunately, if you couldn't afford it, you would have to wait for next time. But then she said this time, at the end of the call, instead of sending a payment link in the chat, I'm going to allow you to book in a one-to-one call with my advisor, a She Sells Academy advisor, to see if this program would be a right fit for you or not, but only for those very few people who actually want to get started now, want to be a remote closer, and are ready for it, because we have limited spots available. So obviously, because she's selling high ticket, you're going to book in a sales call. That's obvious. But the way she's framed it is as if she's not trying to sell them, but rather she's trying to help them. Before you pay the payment link, you can speak to someone who's been through the program themselves. So she also injects some engagement. So she asks them a few questions at the start to get the chat going. What's your sales experience? And why did you take 90 minutes out of your precious Tuesday night to come to this masterclass? And don't tell me money, tell me something more. Like, what will money do for you? And she found that in the chat, 60% had zero sales experience and 40% had sales experience. So sales experience like selling like tech sales, software sales, real estate, door-to-door sales, so on and so forth. And she knows this because when she has collected their details before the webinar, she knows exactly who's in the room. And with second question right here, people said start investing, help my family, take care of my mum. And so she's making them get conscious of why they need more money. Then she goes into her story and how like she wasn't always this confident. She used to be a very quiet child, no network or connections, humble beginnings, and now she's become ultra successful. So what this does for her audience is now they see an element of relatability and believability that they can also make it happen. If Shelby done it, I can do it as well. So they see themselves as like, look, I can make it happen as well. And so from here, Shelby goes into how she got started in sales. So she had a mentor, basically told her about door-to-door sales, and like it was the best thing he did to become a millionaire. And so she's basically giving the story of how a mentor gave me an opportunity that introduced me to sales, and that changed my life. And then she basically does the same thing to them, to the people watching this webinar. And in this case, she's now that mentor, and the audience is now in her position. You know what I mean? So she preempts the objection that people have in their heads, like, I can make this happen without a mentor, or guidance, doesn't matter. Then she talks about how when she did get started with door-to-door sales, when her mentor told her to do it, she felt all of these fears running internally. And so what she's doing at this point is she's voicing basically the audience's fears. The people in this webinar, she's voicing their fears. So people are thinking, when it comes to sales, what if I'm not confident enough? What if I fail? What if sales isn't for me? What if this? What if that? I don't think sales will work for me. So by talking about her story, about how she flew out to Minneapolis, I think that's how you say it, Minneapolis, right? She talks about how she felt all of these emotions. And the reason this is really important is because these thoughts that the prospects have in this webinar, these objections, right? This is all going on in their heads. And you can imagine, there's like hundreds of thoughts running through your head at any one point. And these are some of the thoughts running through their heads. And so what Shelby's doing is she's bringing these thoughts to the top of the prospect's mind. Like, look, you're currently not feeling confident. You are thinking you're going to fail. You are thinking sales isn't going to work for you. She's basically voicing it out and normalizing the fear so that as she breaks down these fears in the slides to come, it actually does work because the prospect is now conscious that they have these fears. So next one, she basically talks about how I had fear, but I took action. I knocked the first door, and it was great, and I was learning a ton. So basically, she says how like the night before she was starting door-to-door sales, she called her manager or her mentor and basically said, look, I want to quit door-to-door sales. And it was a 30-minute conversation, but the mentor read through it and basically said, look, just come tomorrow. Just do it, basically. So she goes through that story as well. And then she goes through the 3 things she learned with this experience. So she was the only girl in the company. The job wasn't suitable for the lifestyle she wanted. And every girl that joined was trained by her. And they achieved massive success. So what she's doing here is she is thrashing door-to-door sales. She's now told the people in the audience that sales is the way to live the lifestyle you want. But then there's different types of sales. There's door-to-door sales and remote sales. So she breaks down door-to-door sales, basically saying how it wasn't sustainable for the lifestyle that she wanted. And then she introduces remote sales. So that's why if you're selling your offer in whichever niche you are through webinars, you should also do the same thing. Okay? So as you can see, she can't just jump from saying, I don't door-to-door sales, so come and buy my coaching program. No, you need a middle slide for why the business exists in the first place. And she basically shares that, look, I'm no longer selling a program, but I've experienced this problem myself firsthand, and that's why I'm helping you. And this builds more trust with the people. And then she basically introduces sales, door-to-door sales, remote high-ticket sales, the aha moment on like how she closed one of her friends' deals, like one of her friends in college. He used to be closing remote deals, high-ticket deals. She then took his laptop and closed 1 or 2 deals for him, and she'd done it successfully, and that was her aha moment. And then again, Thrash's door-to-door sales as being inferior to remote high-ticket sales, and then the result. So since then, we've started a literal movement. I've trained thousands of women across the world and helped them land their dream jobs in high-ticket sales. She's building credibility. So at this point, just to reiterate, she's gone through, look, I wasn't always the confident person you see. I was always really shy. This was my start in sales. I felt shit or terrible in sales. I felt fear after fear after fear. But then when I jumped over that fear and I took the first step forward, these were the positive things that happened. And then I realized that within sales, this specific model of sales, so remote sales, is the way to do it. And then the result, so credibility. Since then, I've trained thousands of women across the world. So then here, in this slide, she then goes into a mindset exercise. She basically tells the audience, look, close your eyes and just listen to me. And then she turns off her camera. She's probably reading off a script. She was going through like, close your eyes, imagine it's 1 year exactly from now. You woke up from bed, who's next to you, who's around you, you're walking off the bed, sort of what sandals are you wearing, across the room, like what do you see when you look around you, and then you get a notification. What's the number you see when you open your bank account? Given like you're living a lavish, like the lifestyle you want. She gets them to visualize this. And Shelby is doing all of this before going into introducing remote high-ticket sales. She's not introduced a vehicle yet. She's not talked about how it works or giving you the link to booking a call. She's fixing your mindset. So what this does is she's getting the prospects, the thousands of people in here, the 3,000 to 4,000 people, to think about it from an emotional perspective. How does it make it feel? Because when you want to sell someone, they have to feel an emotion first before you give them the logic to making it work. And so this allows the person to visualize what their dream life could look like a year from now. And then Shelby, when she introduces high-ticket sales, she uses that logic to basically, reaffirm the emotions that they were feeling. And so the reason you're not there, she then says this, the reason you're not there is because you're missing a vehicle that's going to pay you according to your skill set and your work ethic, not according to your job title or how many hours you work. She's slowly introducing high-ticket sales. But before that, she knows that sales is some form of business or income. And there's two ways you can go when you enter this online space. You can start a business or hustle that's to do with equity or commission. So she basically says, look, you can either start an equity-based business where you need to work 24 hours a day for years and years and years until you sell your company, if you sell your company and make a shit ton of money. Or you can start a commission-based business like sales, where you can make your dream life happen in not years, but only a few short months. You don't need to work 24 hours a day. You can work 2 to 3 hours a day. And again, make your lifestyle happen a lot sooner than later. So before saying sales, she takes them down the commission-based route. Like, this is the type of business you should start, something commission-based. You should be doing sales, and then specifically remote high-ticket sales. So then she goes into, okay, fine, how does high-ticket sales work? At this point of this slide, I remember looking at the timer, because I'm timing it, we are exactly 30 minutes into the webinar. And this webinar is 90 minutes. So she's timed it very well. So the first half of the webinar sold the destination. Look, this is where you can be with the mindset exercise. The second half, she's now selling the vehicle. So Shelby basically now explains how remote high-ticket sales works. So she uses the example of a made-up person called Chad, who's a fitness coach, and how he makes a post on social media talking about his training program. He books in 67 calls in one day from his post because a lot of people are interested in it, but he cannot take all of the calls himself because he needs time to make content, to coach his clients, to script ads, and to record ads, let's say. But he doesn't have time to, for example, put himself on the camera all of the time. He doesn't have the time to take calls all the time because he needs to be put on camera all the time, like with the things I said. His program is $6,000. Now, if you close 10% of the deal, you get $600 for every 6K program which you sell. You take 5 in a day, you have a moderate 40% closing rate. Yep. You made $1,200 in a day. So she breaks it down very simply. And then the next slide is her getting the audience to understand how much $1,200 is. Because online money, it can feel very weird because it's not tangible. So she then reintroduces her pink Porsche and basically says, when I bought this, all I required was to pay $850 per month to have this pink Porsche. So then, if you can make $1,200 in a day, which is a lot more than $850 to these prospects, that makes them think, whoa, like that, I can actually do some real stuff for this money. And she literally asked them in this moment of time, Shelby asked the audience, what would you do with $1,200? So she makes the income feel tangible and believable, like you can do it. And then she says, look, you can make $14,000 in a month working from anywhere in the world. And the reason she does is because, once they fathom making $1,200 in one day, then she introduces $14,000 in a month, right? She shows that your income isn't capped. It scales by how much results you're able to bring. Next slide, she then basically puts herself on a pedestal. And through the law of association, she gets the audience to trust her more because, again, this is a cold audience. She basically says how these are her friends, so Amy Porterfield, Jasmine Starr, Tony Robbins, Cody Sanchez, all these people, and talks about how she was on the Jay Shetty podcast. She was with Iman Gadzhi recently, a few months ago. And basically what this does is that it reduces the perceived risk of the vehicle which she's selling, which is remote high ticket sales, because her audience, even if they don't know Shelby so much, they know Tony Robbins, they know Jay Shetty, they know Iman Gadzhi, they know Cody Sanchez, and so they naturally trust Shelby more as well. Next slide right here, she says that high ticket sales is a growing industry, economy. She gives some numbers there, and she's basically validating market demand. So she's showing the audience that, look, this is a viable market, and there are jobs available for you to sell. It's a growing market. There will always be more and more jobs available. And then from here, she basically stacks a few objections. She stacks them, and then she preempts these concerns throughout the slides before she gets to the pitch. Because every unanswered question a prospect has as they're going through these slides is going to be a reason for them not to invest. So you need to constantly think forward when you're doing your webinar and think, when I make this slide, what will be the next objection, thought, question, concern, or doubt which this audience is going to have? I need to handle it. That's why, as you can see, there's so many slides that she has because she's taking the time with it, which is what you need to do. And then from here, she then has now convinced them that in order to have that life that you want a year from now, you need to do sales. And you're trusting me because I'm associated with all of these other big people that you know. But there's two ways of doing it. There's my method, so Shelby's method, and then the outdated method of doing it. So she basically, in the outdated method, you can read through the 7 steps, it's too long to source these leads, to reach out to them, to eventually land an offer, it's insanely long, and it's 6 months of self-training, hundreds of hours of work to just land a single role. But then, in my method, she slowly introduces it, she's like, I hired a team, and we put together the perfect sales storm. She spent the last 2 more years basically trying to dominate the whole high-ticket sales industry with her girls. Give some proof of her students learning this, proof. And then she goes into how it works. So these are basically what you get. So this is where she introduces the deliverables, because whenever you introduce an offer, one question prospects would always have is, okay, how does it actually work? So you need to answer this question before you get into the pitch. So this is where you need to be a bit more logical with the actual steps or what they get inside. So they get a 12-week self-paced training program. They get an AI sales training software trained by Shelby herself. So when you're practicing your sales calls, you can basically communicate with the software to improve your sales calls. You get weekly group coaching calls. And probably the biggest thing in her offer is this. Shelby's proprietary outreach software, which is basically the LinkedIn board, job board, or Indeed of the high-ticket sales industry. And no other coach has this in the entire industry, entire remote high-ticket sales industry. And she shows a live demo. So I've had a snapshot right here. So this is the software. So on this, you can see names of different coaches. There's thousands and thousands of coaches on the software. Now, what type of coaches on the software? Now, every coach on the software, they are specifically selling a high-ticket offer, and some of them, don't know the exact percentage, but a lot of them have opted into being in the software. And so when you get into her academy, when you pay Shelby thousands of dollars, you become her student, you can get access to the software straight away, and you can reach out to Tim Bratt, Raul, Jonathan Pepino, these people, and basically say, I'm Shelby's student, I can get started on your offer, and you're more likely to be accepted. So instead of having to find leads and reach out to random leads and take months and months and months to probably land an offer, you can streamline the entire process, and it's why her students are landing offers on the first 1 to 2 days of going through her program. Again, it's very cool. And Shelby spends $40,000 per month of her own income just to run ads to high-ticket coaches to get them on the software. And she doesn't charge coaches at all to be on the software. Boom. She's now introduced her way of doing it. And then basically the prospects are now thinking, okay, how do I get started? And then basically gets them to future pace. If you would have done this a year ago today, where exactly would you be today? And then here she basically talks, this is where she sends in the link in the chat. Her team does it. So a type form is sent to the chat, which we'll get into in a second, and says this is what happens next. You fill out the form, you book your advisor call, you meet with a She Sells advisor, and you get your roadmap and payment options. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. This is Eugene Schwartz's 5 levels of market awareness, and she's basically taking them from unaware to most aware, ready to invest in a program throughout her webinar. So let's go to the type form. So as you can see, her chat sends it, and her team sends it in a chat. Goes on over a while. So hey, here's your link to book in a free advisor call. Let me know when you've booked it. You click the link, and we'll go into what's on the type form in a second. So at this point, Shelby mentioned that she had 3,200 people live. There's only 39 advisors that can take calls, so a true limited capacity. And that each advisor is making $15,000 a month, so they've become successful before taking this call for me. When they speak to you, they've already been on big offers. Okay, and she also mentions that she has custom payment plans available. So she partnered up, I believe, with WAP or maybe Fan Bases. I'm not sure which one, but basically with every prospect there is a personalized payment plan. Okay, and from it she goes into the type form. So before we break it down, you click the link, and in order to book in a call, you have to go through this series of questions. So your first name, last name, number, email. Where are you currently located around the world? How old are you? What do you currently do for work? What's your biggest motivation for wanting to learn remote high-ticket sales? What's your previous sales experience, if any? What best describes where you are right now? And so we can help design a roadmap for your current workload. Are you in a position and open to investing a minimum of $6,000 in yourself to get the mentorship and help that you need to hit your goals? And basically, she has a few options like this. I can invest all of this. Well, I have a decent credit, or I don't have access to capital or credit over 650. If accepted, when would you be ready to start? What is you and your partner's current monthly income? And thanks for applying. And basically, if you fit the criteria she needs through the type form, then she allows you to book in a call. And as you can see, this is the call. Very simple name, email, phone number, confirm. You book your call, and then she basically sends you another pre-call confirmation flow to make sure you show up to the call. And at this point, when you're doing all of this, the as soon as you fill this in, if you go through it now, you are put inside a WhatsApp group chat. So the setter and the closer and yourself will be in one group chat. The setter makes this group chat, and this is to basically send you pre-call reminders, to send you any sales assets, to make sure you show up on the call, to answer any personal questions you have, basically. And then, as you can see, there are lots of different questions here. And you might be thinking, well, if I have lots of questions on the type form after the webinar, then surely that's going to lead to a fewer number of calls being booked in. And you might be right, but the goal isn't to maximize the number of sales calls booked in. The goal is to maximize the number of high-intent sales calls booked in. Because if you have 3,000 people on a live webinar and you've only got 400 spots for people to book in a call, if you fill in those 400 spots, you want to make sure all of them are qualified, which is why you need to filter the weeds out, basically, by asking lots of questions. Micro commitments increases the show-up rates eventually. And the reason Shelby's asking a lot of these questions in the type form is because when the prospect shows up to the call, the closer has all of this information. And so imagine when you start a sales call, which one do you think would be better? Would build a better rapport with the prospect initially, sets the right frame, the right energy, the right frequency, and basically is more likely to convert the prospect? Is it this one where you ask the prospect, tell me more about yourself? Or is it, I see you're a nurse, you're wanting to make $15K a month, you have no sales experience, and you live in London. Is that right? So that's a lot stronger. It shows that the closer knows you before you've even got to the call. She also talks about $6,000 so that the prospect knows it's this much, so that they're not shocked at the end of the call. And it helps the closer also handle the money objection if it comes to it. So the closer knows by these 3 options, if they're a cash buyer, financing buyer, or they're probably unqualified at this period of time. And then how ready would you be to start if it was all to go right? And you can see there's 3,000 webinar attendees. Financially qualifying the prospect, thanks, you book in a call, you get a confirmation, and you go from there. So I suspect of this webinar, Shelby done anywhere from $225K to $750K cash collected. She's doing a webinar every single week, so you can tally that up. And this is for a cold audience. She's also doing webinars for her warm audience, which I haven't gone into in this video, but she's making $5 million a month. Okay, and so let's say from the 400 calls, let's just say 300 calls get booked out, right? Not all of the calls get booked in. 80% of the 300 people show up, versus on this side, 90% of the people show up. So on this side, it's like average or below average results, and this one is like above average results. So 80% show up rate, a modest quarter of them close, so 60 people close, assuming 50-50 PIF split. So 30 people paying, so that should be a 6K actually, but let's just do our 5K. 150K, 30 times, let's just say 2.5K for 2 months, this much. And on this side, the show up rate's higher, close rate's higher, same PIF split, and then you get this much, right? So those are numbers that I've suspected. But also just to give you an understanding of the numbers that you need to look out for. So at this point, before we go into the summary, we've gone through how Shelby is making $5 million a month by her traffic, so running meta ads, organic content, getting to a webinar landing page to sign up for a free 90-minute cold webinar, and then basically selling them through a typical sales call funnel. She generates cold leads, funnels them to a free 90-minute webinar. The goal of the webinar, take them from cold to sold within 90 minutes. Post-Webby, booking a one-to-one call with an advisor for 6,000 rev. Any no-shows, no closes, you nurture them for the months to come, aiming to rebook them in. And if they don't show up to the call over the next 7 days, the setter is going to dial them up every single day. And she repeats the webinar once a week. And the reason it's so powerful, I want you to read this, right? Imagine you're walking down a busy street, you're walking past a stranger, you stop them and you tell them to pay you $5,000. Imagine how quickly their hands will go up and say no. Now, imagine if you can spend 90 minutes with this person, how would you convince them to pay you $5,000? And then imagine doing this with 3,000 people at the same time on Zoom. So it goes to show that a webinar, it can be complicated if you make it complicated, but it can be a lot more simple as well if you execute correctly. So that being said, I hope this video was useful. This is my Instagram. I'm going to be making more videos like this. If there's any specific types of videos you want, just let me know. So if you're a coach, online coach, and you're looking to get to high 6-7 figures per month in profit, then you can book a 15-minute call with me using the link in the description box down below. I basically will see if there will be a right fit between us, to see the problems you currently have, if I can help you get to the next level with my team as your operating partner, and we'll go from there. But yeah, otherwise, feel free to drop a follow on my Instagram, subscribe down below, and I hope this video was very useful. And I know it's a very long video, but hopefully you can apply this to your business right now. And if you are looking to book in a call with me, click the link down below, and I'll speak to you very soon, and have an amazing day.